Hey, this is Andy Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp bringing you another video. And this time we are going to actually implement a new feature and stop some of this refactoring here in our main application. So last thing that we did was we moved these routes a bit around so things would be a little bit easier. And I wanted to work on the reply feature. So that is now over here in activities. If we scroll on down, we should be able to find it a bit easier. So this would be showing up right here in the replies, and so this is still hard coded and we want to change that out. So what I'm going to do is make my way over to the activities form, or the reply form I should say, and we want to hook this up to do the stuff that we want it to do. So over here it still doesn't have some more up-to-date stuff like being logged in. So I'm going to go and look for the activity form JS. Activity form. And this is going to work pretty similar. The only difference is that we're going to pass in the UID or whatever the ID is for the message so that is the one that we're replying to. But we will need to go ahead and grab these access tokens. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that there. It's probably a good idea if we swapped out that implementation. I'm going to go see if I can find that from our bootcamper that did this here. I'll be back in a moment, okay? Well, I can't find it, but I know that there is a solution where we don't have to do it this way, but I'll figure it out at some point, like where we don't have to do local storage, because that is a little bit silly. I guess I could just take a look and see if I can fix that myself. And if we go into our lib directory here, check auth, because it could just be that we return the value here in the await over in our activity form. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just going to leave that alone for now, and maybe we'll come back to that, or I'll find the solution. But it is kind of annoying to use the local storage. I'm pretty sure there's a way that we don't have to do that, where we could assign it back, but it has to do with await asyncs, and I'm not always the best at those. Anyway, what I want to do is bring over this access token. So we'll go ahead and copy this from here over to here. We will go here, copy these two lines, and we will go ahead and paste it on in here. Okay, we will need to make sure we import that as well, the get access token, so that can work. So I'll just place that right up here. And so that is definitely an important component that we need to pass along. The other thing is going to be whatever the UID is. I assume that's what we're using. So I'm going to go here and just log into our local database to double check, because I can't remember. So we'll just do connect here. I'm going to say select all from activities. And yeah, it's a UID. I'm just going to bump this up a bit because I know that's a little bit hard to read. Or maybe bump it down a bit so it's easy for me to work with. But what I'm looking for here is the activity UUID, because that's what we're going to need to pass along. I'm just going to type this here, UUID. And so when we have this reply form, that value needs to be passed along. This reply form exists somewhere. Right now we are on the home feed, I believe. So I'll just take a look at where this is getting passed through. So we do have the reply form here, and the reply form needs to have that value set. We do have that reply activity, and so that's probably how we're going to be able to access that. So it's interesting because we've been working with it so long, but there is so much going on here. I don't remember everything, even though I spent a lot of time writing this application. But I'm just going to trust my old code here to work as expected, and we're going to do UUID. Going to make sure those props do get passed somewhere here. Yep, that's what I remember. And so I'm hoping that that's going to pass along the value that we are looking for. Okay, so that's the post there. Why do we have two? Is there two going on here? Let me just double check. No. But I'm just looking at the on submit. So here we have this body. Let the data, return the data back. If it's a deep copy, do that. All right, so that looks all fine to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go now and take a look at the implementation of our route. So we'll go into here into our backend Flask, into our app.py. Or actually now it's our route, so I gotta get used to going there instead. And then here on the last one, we do not want to pass the user handle. That does not make sense. This does require authentication, so we will bring over this decorator here so that that is being provided as well. We do need to access the Cognito user ID, so we will bring that over here. Okay, and we will replace that. We do need the activity UID, which is getting passed over here, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's make our way over to create reply. I'm going to try and see if this works. I'm going to hold control and click through. I haven't been doing this in the entire time, but it does make it easier to find where we need to go. So this needs to be Cognito user ID. And we can replace this a bit with the create activity because that's something we definitely updated recently. So we'll go over to create activity, and over here we have these two lines here, so I'll go ahead and copy that out. And I'm looking for the user handle because we'll go ahead and replace that. Okay. So that is now there. And so this is actually another thing that we could be refactoring. We could be writing our own validators or using a third-party library. It really just depends on what there is in the ecosystem. So validation library for Python. And, you know, sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's not a good idea, but I'm just going to take a look here and just see what there is. That's for validating a schema. So what does this one do? Data validation functionality out of the box designed to be easily extendable, aligned for custom validation. So this kind of looks cool. Values of any of the properties are this. So like in Rails, we have similar functionality. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head, but it is a module of Rails. And so I'm just kind of wondering if this would serve the same purpose. But usually it'd be things like presence and is it a number and all these other things. So I'm not sure what we could use for that. Apparently there is this thing that has 7 best resources. Seems to be all schema stuff. So I'm going to like Rails validation. So like something like for Python, right? And so this might be something that's similar. Probably going to be on SQL Alchemy, which we're not using. But I don't know, maybe there's something there. We could, of course, write our own. Again, you know, when we don't use external libraries, we don't have to worry about it. Not that validation is like that complicated to write as a library. But I was just curious about that. So anyway, you know, we have our Cognito user ID. We do need to make sure that's getting passed on the create activity or the create reply. So in our if we have errors, do this. Otherwise, we'll do that. We still have these hard-coded values in which we will definitely want to remove. Handle, user handle, message. I don't think we need to have the display name here. I'm not even sure why we have that there, so I'm just going to remove that out of there. This user sender handle is also something I'm not sure about. I don't think we need that there as well. Reply to activity UID, so we can leave that alone. If that does mess things up, we will just have to fix that, but these are only the two things that we're looking at are these two values. So that's all that should really be returned. Actually, in fact, only the message really needs to be returned there, but that's okay. We'll just leave that alone for now. So what I want to do is create the message or the reply. So I can go here and do def. I'll just copy this one here. So go ahead and copy this one. Actually, we'll copy both of these because we're pretty much going to use them the same way. I'm not sure if we need to really have a different one here because the object would be quite similar. But we'll go here and say create reply. And I'm just thinking about this for a moment. This would be create reply. And so it's very similar with the exception that we have no expires at, but we do have a reply activity ID. So we'll just put activity ID here, and that will be activity ID. And up here, we'll say activity ID. I'm not sure what it is called in our database here, so I'll just do an X on here. And we'll just say describe activities. Maybe it's just D. There we go. And we called it this. So I'm just going to be more verbose here. So that is listed as such. I'm going to go over here and apply it there. We do want to go ahead and create this activity. I guess we can return back the UID. I'm not sure what we need to return back there, but we'll paste this in here for now. And then, yes, we'd want to grab the object, and that's why we need it for this second part here. We'll go ahead and paste that in. And this is called create reply, so we'll have to change that there. Let's go over to our SQL in our DB directory, and we'll say activities reply SQL. And we'll go over here, we'll grab our create because it's going to be very similar. The key difference here is that we're passing in this here. Okay, so we need to insert that. It doesn't really matter where, as long as it's in here. We aren't inserting expires yet. We don't need that in this case. And so what we will have is this instead. So we'll just replace the expires. We got to make sure that we're not trying to pass that in here. So we'll just take that out. Okay, we'll go up here. Again, we'll make sure this is taken out as well because we don't have an expires yet. Will this object work? It depends. Let's go take a look at this object. What does it return? It's not showing that value there, so I'll just put it on there because then we'll return it in both cases. It's not like a big deal if we do that, so we'll do that. Okay. And so I think that is what we want. So yeah, that should be that endpoint there. We're going to go ahead and give this a refresh. And I'm going to say, I am replying to my own post. We'll do reply. It's not going to work, of course, because every time we try something for the first time, it never works. We'll go over here and view the logs. No error there, so it must be a JavaScript error. Let's open that up. We'll go to console here. 403 error, that would be not authorized. So that would be an issue with passing along the value there. Now it is saying it's undefined for reading the UID. So here it's saying that's not there. Let's go over and log that out and see what's going on there. So I'm going to go back to reply form.js. And what I want to do is I want to console log where that is happening. So I'm looking where we pass that along. It gets passed over here. So I'm just going to go above here and outside the try, I'm going to put it here. So say console log props reply activity. I'll just say reply activity. We'll go back over here, give this a refresh. I'm going to try this again. I'm going to open up my console because I want to see when this happens. Reply activity is undefined. Why is it undefined? Maybe we never pass it along and I just thought it was there. So we'll go over to home feed.js. And so the idea is that this is supposed to get set. Now this would get set when the pop-up occurs. So we have pop reply. And at that time, it should set that value for the form. And so wherever that button gets pressed is where it happens, and that's in our activity feed. That's going to be in our activity item that this occurs. So we do have to pass along that value. So it says set reply activity, so it's supposed to set it. So we'll go activity item over here. I'll bring this over here, and so in here somewhere we have activity item, and probably in our props. So where does it happen? Because we have all these buttons here, and the set reply gets passed to the activity action replies. We'll go here, activity action reply, JS. And yeah, so it should get set here. So what I'll do is I'll do a console log here, activity action reply, and then we'll just do a props activity here, because that should be getting set. Why it's not, I don't know. Maybe it's not called activity. It depends on what we assigned it as. So if we go back to this item here, it is signed as activity, but it says activity. Okay. Well, that's fine there, but then over here, what is it? Well, this says activity UUID. So over here, we actually don't have access to activity. It's just activity UUID. So that's probably our problem. It's probably supposed to be this. Okay, so we'll go back over here, refresh this. But that also means that if we set it to that, we aren't setting the reply activity. But how does it know when it pops up to show the last one? That's what I'm wondering here, because it shows that one there. So if I go here, now it doesn't show. So that doesn't make sense. It has to be this, right? Okay, and I'll go back here and refresh. Okay, so that's showing up there. Notice here it is showing it here. It has a UID, so that shouldn't be an issue. It's using set reply activity. Okay, and so if we go back to our activity form.js, maybe it's just called activity. Because we do render out the activity here on our reply form. Reply form.js. And so that would be listed somewhere here. So this is just called activity. So maybe our issue here is that we're calling it reply activity when it's just activity. Okay. We'll go ahead and paste that in there. We'll give this a nice refresh. And I'll go here again, and then I'll just type this in, hit enter. And so now we are getting the UID. It looks like it's for this one. This was imported, so that is correct. We are hitting an error of 500 error. That is totally okay. We'll go back over here. Create reply has no attribute called create activity. And that's true. It's called create reply in the create reply. So we'll go over to our create reply here. And I'll just fix this name here, create reply. We could just call it create as well, but whatever. I'll try this again. We'll go back over here. Missing one positional argument for create reply. Sure, which one? We have Cognito user ID and our message. We are missing our activity ID. So this is supposed to be here. And this does get passed in over here. So that's probably the issue it's complaining about. We'll try this again. We'll go back over here. Activity ID is not defined on this line here. Well, does it get passed in? It's called UUID, and so that's our problem. I called it ID, which is wrong. We'll try this again. Also, this should be UUID. I'm just going to make this more conventional so we have less problems. Okay, we'll hit reply. Failed again. DB is not defined. We did not import that, so that makes sense. I'm going to go to create activity to go grab it from there. So we'll go ahead and import that value. We don't need UUID imported in here anymore. That was only there because we were generating it out for the fake data, so we'll take that out. And we'll go ahead and try this again. We'll go back over here. Notice it's saying object has no attribute PG error. Okay, that's fine. Let's see what the issue is. So here it's trying to insert the data, so let's just carefully look here. So we have the reply to activity UID. We have the Cognito user ID. We have the message. Invalid input syntax for type. And so basically this type is incorrect. The problem here is our migration, or is that type. So if we go to our schema, the problem is that we set it as an integer instead of a string. So that issue would be here. Nope, sorry, here. Okay, so what we can do is write a migration for that. So let's go ahead and pull out our migrations. We haven't ran our migrations for a while, so hopefully we remember how to do that. This is where we should be really documenting the main part of our application, but we've yet to do that. I'm going to go here and do generate migration. I'm going to call this reply to activity UUID to string. Okay, and so that's going to generate out that file, or it should anyway. And so we'll go to our migrations, and we now have a new migration file that we have here. And so we want to change one-to-one type. So for Postgres, write a query that that will change a column from a string to a integer. And actually, I want to go the other way. It's alter column. I feel like it's easier than that. So we'll go alter column PSQL, because I've done this a lot. I just know looking at it that it's simpler than that. Okay, maybe it is that. All right. So I'll go over here, and this is the wrong order. We'll just flip this around. So we have alter table. Alter table, this is activities. I mean, we definitely do need both, so it doesn't matter. And so this would be this here. No. It would be this value here. And so we will go back here, and we will alter column here. And so we do need to go one way and then the other way. So I'm just going to move this over here, and I'll paste this as such. And so that's one way. If we need to go back to what it originally was. So alter table, type integer, using this to integer. That doesn't make any sense. Where's the string part? Let's go back over here. Okay, alter column. I just wanted to provide it for me. So for a table called activities, with a column called this, change it from an integer to a string. And you could also drop and re-add it, but I don't want to do that. Okay, apparently that's what we need to do. So we'll go ahead and grab that. Now it's interesting it's going varchar. I don't want it to be varchar. I'm just gonna make it text. Okay. And then over here, this is if we want to turn to an integer. So technically we could leave that in. So that's right. That's if we wanted to roll back. So now we want to run that migration. So bin db migrate. Hopefully that just works. Add biomigration is not defined. Was it talking about? Should be there. So, oh, you know what? Because that's hard coded. So we actually have an issue with our code here for our template. So over in, where do we do this? DB maybe? I'm trying to remember where we wrote this migration code. Well, it gets generated out by our generator, right? So maybe it's right in there in our bin directory. So we'll go bin, db, generate. Or do we have a generate directory? Yeah, we do. And so maybe in here, we can find it. Yeah, that's still hard-coded. So what we want is whatever the name of this file is here. Okay, and that will fix it for our future migrations. We'll go ahead and write that. And so that should have altered that. So now what we can do, let's go back over here. I want to go back over to our logs. If it's still running the right one, seems like it's logging twice, which is fine, whatever. Same thing. And we'll go back here and try this again. And so now we will have a different error. So it looks like it is writing to the database and it's coming back with data. Now it's not showing it here, but I'm almost certain that it is there. Let's go back and refresh. And so that's our reply. It's not showing in the right place. So show me my reply. Put reply. And so this is coming back with some data, or it should. And so that looks correct to me, but for whatever reason, it's not pushing it there. So we'll go back to wherever the reply form data is here. So in here, it's going to do a push somewhere on here. We'll go back over here and we'll take a look at our sources. We'll go into console and it says cannot read properties of undefined for push. So it's saying that this replies is undefined. There's nothing on it. It can't push on it. Now that doesn't mean it didn't find an activity. It could still have found one here. Because I did write this before and it worked when we had mocked it. But it's possible that since then, we just haven't returned an empty array. So let's go take a look at our SQL here for our activities, and we'll go into object. And so in here, it doesn't show like the nested replies. So that's one thing that needs to be fixed. But if we go to our home SQL, yeah, we don't have it there. So what we need is we need to return replies in here. And so the way we would do that is we need some helper functions. So in our db.py, I know that we have those there. We'll just kind of have to hard code them in place because I don't have an easy way to pass those along. But what we're looking for is those array.json functions, which are somewhere here. So yeah, we wrap it. So I'm looking for wherever that is. Query wrap array is what we're looking for here. So we'll look for query wrap array down here. And so this is the stuff I'm looking for. I'm going to just copy that in here. We're going to go paste that in. And we'll drag this over. Okay, and we'll put a comma on the end there. And so what we want to do is just on the end of this, we want to say as, what is it called? Replies. And then taking this out of here, and then we're copying the similar contents here. But we're going to say select from public activity, and we're going to call it replies. And we probably want to left join from the users, and we'll just say reply user here, because this could conflict with the outside one. That's why we're renaming these. Users, reply users. This will be replies. And then we can bring in all these columns, or most of them anyway. We don't need this one here. And the opposite here is we don't need our expires at here. So similar, but a little bit different. And so I'll go down below here. And we might want to order these order by created at ascending. So in the order that people wrote them, I guess. You could do descending. I can't remember what Twitter likes to do it, but we're going to do it that way. And so that should return replies. Now, is this structure exactly correct? I don't know. I think it is, but we'll go over here. We'll give this a refresh. And you can see it is starting to work. The part that it doesn't work is that it's actually querying the same thing. So for each one, it's doing a duplicate. It's kind of not doing exactly what we want. So we have to go here and put a where on this. And this is going to be activities, where reply to activity user ID. Equals this. I don't know if we actually need to pass this along, but I'm going to leave it in there just in case we do need it. And so I'm going to go up a level here and say activities UUID. Another thing is that this needs to be switched over to replies. Okay. And then this also needs to be switched over to reply users. And we'll go back over here, give this a refresh. And we have some problems, not a big issue here. Cannot read, undefined, whatever, that's fine. Go over here to terminal. It's this equals it doesn't like on our where. Operator does not exist. Text to UUID. Okay, so our migration is wrong, which is fine. So what we can do, it's our opportunity to use a rollback. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll back our migration. Bin db rollback. Did we ever implement a rollback? Let's go double check. I kind of remember doing it, so I believe that it is in there. So we'll go over to db. Whoops. Into db. We should have a rollback. Yeah, it is right there. Now, I don't remember if we ever ran it, but let's go ahead and just in case, I'm going to make sure that, oh, we're in a subdirectory. That's probably why it wasn't able to do it. Bin db rollback. I don't know if it's going to roll back on this case. It apparently did. And so what we can do, because we've yet to deploy our code, so it's okay if we update our migration, but our schema has already been deployed, so that's something we don't want to change. Now, it does say UUID to string, but whatever. I'm not going to rename that. I'm not too picky about that. But what I want to do is up here, I want to change this to UUID. So go here, and I'll say UUID, and this will be UUID, and hopefully that will just work. And so now we'll do a migration. So we'll say migrate. String and int. So, I mean, we haven't done many rollbacks. So it says unsupported between instances of string and int. And so it thinks that file time is a string. Interesting. And that's in our migration. So let's go take a look there. Maybe we have it as a string by accident. So that is on line 45 here. And so I'm just going to print this out and see what this is, file time. And I'm going to try this again. Duplicate column object has no attribute. So it ended up in some kind of weird state. Now it does cast it to an integer, so I'm surprised that it's complaining about it being a string because we cast it right there. Maybe this needs to be casted. Last successful run. The way we would know is maybe we can go check rollbar here or rollback because maybe we do it there as well. I mean, we do, but I'm not sure if it required any kind of casting. So probably what we should have done here is just printed both and just take a look at their contents. But now we're kind of in this weird state. Duplicate column, object has no attribute, PG error. It seems like it's trying to run the bio column again. So it looks like the comparison is messed up. So yeah, up here it's printing out, right? So let's print out both here. And so they're similar. Let's go look at our migrations. This one has 168.44672. Why does it not have a number on it? Well, this one here is 2377772. So it's not like the full value. Something weird's going on there. So that last successful run is stored in our database, if I recall. So we'll just say select or show all columns, show all tables. And we have one here called, what do we call it? Is it schema information? Select all from schema information. It is. And so it's cutting it off. It's not showing the full value. Maybe because it's being stored as an integer and then it's hitting the limit for the integer, so it's not storing the value correctly. So this is, I think, set up in our schema initially. And so if we go over here, no, it's a text. So why is it cut off? Why is it not showing all the values? Because it's supposed to be set to that value there. So I'm going to go here. So maybe there's like a defect in our rollbacks here. And I'm just going to say update last successful run. Well, this will be schema information. Set this equal to this. I think I need singles around this here. Semicolon. Okay, I'm just going to select it again. So now it's the correct value. So something happened there where when it rolled back, it did not set the value correctly. Let's go take a look at our rollback code. And I'm just going to move this over a bit here. Because this is where it gets set, right? And so the value gets passed here. So set last successful run down below here. And at this time, it's probably an integer. So maybe what we should do is cast it back to a string, and that might resolve the issue. So, I mean, we'll see if that fixes it. I don't know if that's the reason why that happened, but we won't know until the next time we run it. I'm not in a hurry to run that right now, but now that it is resolved, at least temporarily, we'll do, I don't know where we were before, but we're running this somewhere here. Maybe here, migrate, duplicate column. So now they're matching. So the thing is, if they match, it's not supposed to run the current migration. It's supposed to skip it, right? So what we'll do is we'll just take a look here. So this might be our logic's a bit messed up here. And I knew that that could have happened. And so we want to go to our migrate file. And so here it says, if the last successful run and is less than or equals. Okay, less than or equals. I guess the question is this an int? Get last successful run. And just in case, I'm going to cast this to an int. That way we won't have an issue with this. I'm just going to double check that this is set there. Let's try this again. But they're identical. So what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and, well, I guess the thing is that if it's equal, you don't actually want to run it. So it actually has to be less. It can't be the same. So that's probably the issue there. Okay, great. And so that ran it. So that was our logical issue there. And so now it's a UUID. If we go back over here, we'll give this a refresh. And we'll try this. We don't have to try this again. So now if I go into our network tab here, I want to see the data that's being returned. So if we go into our home, over here, we should now see that in line. So see the replies are empty here, replies are empty, replies are empty. So it's showing all the replies empty, which shouldn't be true. But when we switched over that data, it could have cleared out those UUIDs. So let's go take a look here and just take a look at our data again. So I'm going to just say select all from X on, select all from activities. And what I'm looking for, yeah, so the reply UUID is empty. It's set here. Okay. So this one here is this one, C879. That should be our first one. And it is, C879. So it should be showing that underneath. Maybe there's something wrong with our query. Maybe I wrote it incorrectly. Let's go back to home SQL. Okay. And so in here, we are referencing UID. So this says activities reply UID. That's not right. So this should be replies. Okay, and we'll go back over here, give this a refresh. And we are seeing more, and it looks like this is in line. So this one should be a reply to that one. This one is just a bit of a mess, so there's not much we can do about that. We don't have an option to delete our our replies or tweets. That might be something that we might want to implement, just kind of a hidden problem there. But notice that this is inline. It's not obvious that that's inline. So maybe we can improve the UI there a little bit. So I'm just going to go here and inspect this. And items. What can we do to make that more obvious? So that one's there. Replies. Oh, those are both replies. Yeah, it's not super obvious those are replies. Activities actions. And it's because the activity item has a border all the way around it. So that's where we're going to be running into that issue. Because really where we want to have that is on the content. So we go here. Yeah, so these two things should get wrapped. And then the padding should be on that, and that will make that a little bit easier to work with. So we're going to go to our activity items here. And we'll also go to our, well, maybe we can click through here and just bring that over here. And so what we need to do is wrap those two things. And so that is in our activity content. So we'll click through that. And apparently this has its own styling. So maybe we'll bring that over here as such. And so in here, content wrap. That's not really what I wanted. Because we have the content and the actions. Yeah, sorry. So these need to be wrapped. I'm kind of running out of names for this, but we'll say activity main. It's not the best name, but that's what I'm going to call it, okay? And so we will just bring those in one level. And so now what I can do is I can go over here to our activity item. Where we have that padding there, we can go down here and instead apply it here, okay? And so that means that the replies will come more in line, but the styling is going to kind of mess up here. Let's go take a look at this now. It's complaining for some reason. It's saying it doesn't like something. Okay, so we'll go back over here. What's its problem? This is unreachable. I don't know about that. Oh, you know what? It's because it auto-completed for us. Not something I wanted to do, but that's what it did. We'll go back over here, give this a refresh. And so now it's getting a little bit better, but this is not obvious those are replies. So what we can do, let's look at our replies here. They're like that. They're just wrapped like that. So here what we'll do is we'll have replies. I'm just going to do a padding left 24 pixels as one thing that we can do. So now those are in line. To make it even more obvious, I'm just going to maybe put a background on that. So let's say background, RGBA, 255, 225, 225, and just do a 2 on that. And I'm hoping that that will just work and that those other backgrounds are dark. Not exactly what I want. I want those inline ones to stay dark. And so in here, I'm just going to go ahead and do activity item like this. And I mean, that might be our foreground. I'm not really sure. Foreground. Let me just go inspect this. hyphen hyphen FG. I was pretty close. I got it backwards. Okay. And so I'll put a semicolon on the end there. Whoops. And we'll go back over here. And so that's kind of what I wanted. It looks a little, it's not the best looking, but I mean, it does make the point that that's in line. I'm just going to bring that down a bit here. And now that doesn't appear at all. So I'll do 1.5 maybe. And so hopefully that's kind of indicating that that is inline. I'm not sure if that really is that clear, but those are now inline comments. I guess I can just go take a look at Twitter really quickly. Just 1 second. So just give me a moment here. So how do replies work here? I'm just trying to find one. You know what? I don't know if they even show replies there. You might have to click into them to actually see them. Because I'm just scrolling through my feed here, and like as I go through here, I'm not really seeing inline replies. I thought that we did. Maybe you have to click in to see them. Okay. So yeah, nowhere am I seeing inline replies. Even on my home feed, is that the case? What about my messages? If I go to my profile? Yeah, it seems like you always have to click into stuff to see it. So I guess that whole thing we did with the replies, at least here, doesn't make sense. So it's not supposed to be on the home activities feed. That doesn't mean we wasted our time. It just means when we click into here, they show up here as replies. Okay, so, you know, not exactly right, but, and also, like, how do we click into an object here? Is it anywhere? Can I click anywhere? Looks like I can. But then those ones go there. So our click actions have to be a bit changed. So what I'm going to do, because I kind of got it wrong, but and also it's rendering them in line here, and so that's also a little bit wrong because it should only happen on the home page. But you know what? I think that we did accomplish hooking up the replies, and so I'm just going to stop here. Also, it's very late where I am, and so we'll pick this up tomorrow, but at least we're into feature development. So I'll see you tomorrow, okay?